The world between worlds. A vast expanse of endless stars and swirling nebulae, where time and space converge. Within this mysterious realm, the Force weaves the threads of countless realities. Through its portals, we glimpse infinite possibilities, a galaxy where one decision can reshape everything we know. Here, in the world between worlds, we see the echoes of destiny fractured and reformed. The Force binds all living things, but in this place, it also reveals what might have been. Every portal opens to a galaxy far, far away. A galaxy familiar, yet wholly different, where the balance of light and dark shifts in ways unimaginable. Time, space, reality, the Force moves through all of it. And yet, even the strongest currents can be altered by the smallest moments. Now, we step into one of these realities to witness a galaxy shaped by a single choice. A place where history bends, futures collide, and the impossible becomes possible. And so, we are left to ask just one question. What if? Hello there, and welcome to What If Obi-Wan Learned Vaapad After Qui-Gon's Death, Part 1 of 2. Location, Naboo, Royal Palace and Feed. Time, 31 BBY. As the Master and Padawan duo of Obi-Wan Kenobi and Qui-Gon Jinn clashed against the Sith, the sounds of lightsabers could be heard throughout the palace. Qui-Gon could feel himself getting tired, whilst the Sith Darth Maul desperately tried to separate the two Jedi. Soon he would succeed by kicking Obi-Wan off his feet, leading to him falling on the walkway below. Qui-Gon, seeing as he now was alone against the Sith, was determined, and Maul was more confident than ever. The Jedi and Sith continued their duel until they got to the shields in the plasma refinery. The shields closed, separating the two, and at the same time Obi-Wan was running back in the distance, desperately trying to get back in the fight. Qui-Gon went into battle meditation, which is a powerful and rare ability that is used to form connections to those around the user. As the shields opened again, the duel between Qui-Gon and Maul resumed. Obi-Wan was still far away, and as he was running back, Qui-Gon was running out of time. As the shields closed again, Obi-Wan had to watch as his master struggled against the Sith. Eventually, Qui-Gon fell as the Sith ruthlessly stabbed him through the chest with his crimson blade. Obi-Wan screamed, now more determined than ever. As the shields opened, Obi-Wan ran out, screaming and clashing with the Sith, his blue saber hitting against the Sith's crimson blade. The duel was becoming faster and faster. Obi-Wan was eventually able to get through the Sith's double-bladed saber, angering the Sith as he now had to fight with just one blade. The Sith managed to unleash a powerful force push, leading to Obi-Wan falling down the shaft, barely holding on for his life. As the Sith arrogantly stood above him, Obi-Wan suddenly lunged back up, pulling his master's saber to him and flipping above the Sith, cutting him in half as he watched the Sith fall down the endless shaft. He quickly runs over to his master, laying on the ground, badly hurt. Obi-Wan insists on saving his master, but Qui-Gon knows that this is his end. He manages to mutter out a few sentences before passing, and these very sentences would change everything. Qui-Gon manages to mutter out to Obi-Wan, "Obi-Wan, the boy is the chosen one and needs to be trained as a Jedi. I trust you and only you to do it. The boy is our only hope, and you are our only hope at training him. My only hope. Stop at nothing. Do whatever it takes to destroy the Sith for good and finally bring peace and balance back to the galaxy." Qui-Gon manages to mutter out his final words to Obi-Wan. "May the Force be with you, Obi-Wan." "May the Force be with you, Master," Obi-Wan responds as Qui-Gon forever closes his eyes. Obi-Wan sat there for a bit, alone with his thoughts. Thoughts of anger. Anger at the Sith. Anger at the Jedi Council. but he also found new determination. Determination to avenge his master as he vowed to honor his word. As Obi-Wan stood beside Padme and Anakin, watching as Qui-Gon's body was being burned, he knew his master was gone, yet he could still feel his presence around him. On the other side of the audience of the funeral, the Grand Master stood with the Master of the Order. Windu heard the concern in Yoda's voice as he spoke. One Sith was killed. How many there are left? Unsure we are. The rule of two I am certain of. A master and an apprentice there are. Location, Coruscant, the Jedi Temple, time, 31 BBY. Obi-Wan stood before the council as Master Yoda spoke, still concerned about the boy and him being trained as a Jedi. But Obi-Wan would not back down, and as he spoke, all the council masters could sense the anger within Obi-Wan. Obi-Wan would not back down as he was determined to train the boy, just as he promised his master. Yoda spoke. Many unsettling feelings we feel in the boy, blinded his future might be with his feelings. Obi-Wan fired back. This boy is the chosen one. He must be trained. All of you heard when Qui-Gon said that Anakin's midichlorian count was higher than that of Master Yoda. If we don't train him, the Sith will. Your failure to act resulted in the death of Qui-Gon, and the Sith are still out there. I will train the boy, whether you approve or not. Obi-Wan then turned around, making his way out of the council chambers. The council was in awe from what Obi-Wan said. Before Obi-Wan exited, Master Yoda spoke. Train the boy, you will, Obi-Wan. Trust you with this, I do. Tomorrow, a Jedi Knight you will become. Obi-Wan smiled to himself as he responded with saying, May the Force be with you, and entered the elevator, leaving the council chambers. As Obi-Wan left, the council erupted in an argument. As the Jedi Masters kept arguing, Plo Koon spoke up, which stunned everyone as Master Plo usually stayed quiet. He said, Master Yoda is right. The boy must be trained. We failed to act, and now the whole galaxy might just suffer. As said by Obi-Wan, the Sith are still out there. Everyone listened closely as Mace Windu spoke up. I must agree, but I sensed much anger in Obi-Wan. This might be something concerning. We should keep a close eye on him. Tomorrow he will be attending the Jedi Knight trials, which I believe he will pass with ease. After Obi-Wan exited the elevator, Anakin stood there waiting for him. Anakin asked Obi-Wan if he will become a Jedi. Obi-Wan didn't respond as he motioned for Anakin to come with him. Obi-Wan led him to a meditation chamber. Obi-Wan and Anakin sat down as Obi-Wan told Anakin to close his eyes. Anakin closed his eyes as Obi-Wan told him to feel the Force around him. I can feel it, Anakin said. Obi-Wan smiled and said that he will train Anakin as a Jedi. Anakin jumped up in happiness, but Obi-Wan continued speaking, mentioning that the council were skeptical of Anakin becoming a Jedi, so this would be a challenge for both. Obi-Wan continued speaking, as he said that tomorrow he will attend the Jedi Knight trials, and once he's passed them, his training of Anakin will officially begin. But the journey ahead will take a lot of work. Obi-Wan then led Anakin to his room and told him to get some rest. After this, Obi-Wan headed to the Jedi Library, left to his own thoughts. He was anxious about training Anakin. He hadn't even become a Jedi Knight yet, and the burden of training the Chosen One fell on him. Despite this, he wanted to do this for Qui-Gon. He entered the library and was greeted by Jocasta Nu. Obi-Wan liked learning and reading books, so he thought that he would head down to the library to calm himself down. He specifically wanted to find any books about feelings, specifically anger. Anger was something he had truly felt for the first time today. After a long time of searching, Obi-Wan couldn't find anything. Jocasta Nu approached him, asking what he was looking for. Obi-Wan responded that he was searching for books about anger specifically. Jocasta Nu raised an eyebrow at Obi-Wan, wondering why he would be searching for that at this time. She didn't ask why he was searching for that specifically. Obi-Wan responded by saying, I want to learn more about the feeling of anger. He then paused before continuing to speak. Today I truly felt anger for the first time, but he didn't want to just brush it off. He wanted to embrace it and use it for good. Jocasta Nu nodded in understanding as she spoke. I can help you, but know that what you want isn't very popular with the Jedi. Get some rest for your trials tomorrow, and we will speak further about this." Obi-Wan responded with a thank you and went to his room to get some sleep. He smiled, knowing that Master Nu was willing to help him. He really liked her, as she was the wise librarian that always helped him. The next day, Obi-Wan would go on to pass the Jedi Knight trials with ease, just as the Council Masters had anticipated. Obi-Wan was officially granted the rank of Jedi Knight and became Anakin's master. After this, Obi-Wan would head down to the library to speak with Jocasta Nu. She greeted him with a smile, congratulating him in becoming a Jedi Knight. Obi-Wan then mentioned that she said she would help him. Master Nu answered saying yes, as she told Obi-Wan to sit down. Master Nu started speaking. "What you seek is possible, but highly unpopular. Your darkness could be used to do good. Mace Windu is a Jedi that uses this technique. As you may know, Mace Windu took the seventh form of lightsaber combat, Ju-Yo, and made it into something more. He made it into something called Vaapad." Obi-Wan's interest was rising as Master Nu continued speaking. This is also the reason behind Master Windu's purple lightsaber color. Master Windu stands between the light and dark, using both sides of the Force. The pod also allows the user to channel their enemy's darkness against them. But Master Windu has previously said that he prefers for Jedi not to learn this power, as the average Jedi could very easily be turned to the dark side because of this. Obi-Wan's interest was at its peak as he spoke. "I must speak to Master Windu. I must learn this power." Jocasta Nu wished Obi-Wan luck and warned him about learning this ability. She then told him to trust in the Force and left. Obi-Wan knew that he had to speak with Master Windu. After searching around the temple, he found Master Windu. Windu greeted him, asking Obi-Wan what he wanted. Obi-Wan spoke. "Master Windu, I wish to know more about Vaapad." Windu was stunned as he heard Obi-Wan mention Vaapad. "You want to learn the ability of wielding Vaapad?" Obi-Wan nodded and spoke. "I spoke about it with Jocasta Nu. She meant you. She also said that I should be careful when learning Vaapad." Master Windu shook his head. "No, Obi-Wan. I can't teach you. It's too dangerous." Obi-Wan argued. "But Master, I can't suppress this anger within me." Master Windu let out a sigh and spoke. "Obi-Wan, you have a Padawan to learn now. I will not help you." Over the next few weeks, Obi-Wan would start the training of Anakin Skywalker. It seemingly was going well, but Obi-Wan was still thinking of the conversation with Master Windu. Over the weeks, Obi-Wan's anger had been rising, and the Council had taken notice. 3 months into Anakin's training, the Council had a meeting where they discussed the boy and his master Obi-Wan. They admitted that Obi-Wan was thus far doing well with the training, but his anger was starting to be concerning. As the Council Masters continued discussing, Master Windu spoke to himself, saying, "I must do it." The other Masters looked at Windu as Yoda asked, "Do what?" Master Windu sat up in his chair as he spoke. "I must teach Obi-Wan the art of Vaapad." Everyone looked at Windu, surprised at his words. Master Yoda said with a surprised tone, "What?" Windu spoke. 3 months ago, Obi-Wan came to me and wanted me to teach him Vaapad, to control his anger and use it for good. I told him that I couldn't, considering the risks with doing so. But now, it seems like I have no choice. The next day, Obi-Wan was called to the council chambers. Yoda spoke in a wise tone. Your training with Skywalker, good is it going?" "Yes, Master, it's going very well," Obi-Wan answers. After a brief silence, Mace Windu speaks. "I must say that your training with Skywalker is most impressive, but I can sense that something's troubling you. What is it?" Obi-Wan stands there, quietly, contemplating what to say next, as the Council Masters wait for him to speak. "Yes, there is something troubling me." Obi-Wan pauses. The Council Masters listen intently, as Obi-Wan explains that ever since Qui-Gon's death, he's had troubles with his feelings. He was angry at the Sith, angry at himself, and angry at the Council. All of the Council Masters' eyes open wide as Obi-Wan says this. There's a moment of silence as Yoda speaks up. "Appreciate your honesty, we do, Obi-Wan. Understand, we do, that Vaapad sparks your interest. It does." Obi-Wan nods. Master Windu starts speaking, explaining Vaapad to Obi-Wan. Vaapad is a different form of Juyo, the seventh form of lightsaber combat. Obi-Wan nods as he remembers Master Nu explaining this to him. Windu continues speaking. Vaapad is a two-sided blade, where you stand between light and dark. It's too dangerous because it pushes you towards the dark side, and that's why controlling it is so hard. Vaapad is a more refined version of Juyo, making it easier to control. Juyo has always been a form of lightsaber combat used by the Sith, being extremely fast-paced and aggressive. But I didn't develop this alone. A fellow Jedi Master and a great friend of mine, Sora Bulk, helped me develop this form, but at the end, he fell to the dark side, being consumed by it due to Vaapad. As Mace says this, all the Council Masters nod in sorrow as they remember Master Sora Bulk. Windu continues. After this incident, I decided that I wouldn't teach anyone in the art of Vaapad, as it is too dangerous. Obi-Wan nods in understanding, as he turns to leave. He hears Master Windu say the word, but. Obi-Wan turns around to look at Windu. I will teach you, Windu says. I believe that you are fully capable of this. For now, continue your training with Skywalker as you have, and whenever you have time, we will train together. And Vaapad might be something useful for Skywalker later. Obi-Wan smiles, thanking Master Windu and the Council. We begin tomorrow, Windu says. The next day, after Obi-Wan finishes his regular training with Anakin, he went down to a relatively secluded area of the training grounds of the temple, where Windu was waiting for him. The first training session was hard for Obi-Wan, with Windu shouting again and again, "Not good enough, Obi-Wan. One more time, Obi-Wan." After the first training session, Obi-Wan understood that the journey ahead would be very hard. Over the next few months, Obi-Wan's Jedi life would be very hard. Every day he would train Anakin as his Padawan, and right after, he would be training with Mace Windu. Windu also started helping Obi-Wan with training Skywalker and formed a sort of a bond with him. Now, prior to Windu helping Obi-Wan with learning Vaapad, Obi-Wan decided to learn the third form of lightsaber combat, Sarisu. But even after starting the journey of learning Vaapad, he continued his training of Form 3. Obi-Wan was becoming the definition of a two-sided blade. On one side, he was learning to use his anger for good and learning a more refined version of the most aggressive lightsaber form. On the other side, he was a calm and collected Jedi, also earning himself the infamous name of the Negotiator. With that, he was also learning the third form of lightsaber combat, which was considered the most Jedi-like form, being a purely defensive form. After 2 more years had passed, Obi-Wan earned himself many names: the Negotiator, the Two-Sided Jedi, the Double-Bladed Jedi, and many more. Throughout these 2 years, Obi-Wan had become very proficient in Form 3 and not far behind with Form 7. Him and Windu had also been teaching Anakin the basics of Vaapad, making him aware of what it is. The Council had deemed it that Anakin should also be taught in this ability. By this time, Palpatine couldn't form a bond with Anakin yet, since Anakin was so focused on his Jedi training. Because of this, he wasn't aware of the whole Vaapad situation. Location: the Mid-Rim. Planet: Hurricane. Time: 26 BBY. Mace Windu, Anakin, and Obi-Wan were flying through the atmosphere of the planet Hurricane, aboard a T-6 shuttle. Recently, whilst meditating, both Anakin and Obi-Wan got a vision of them finding a purple kyber crystal. From the vision, Windu determined that it must have been on the planet of Hurricane, the same planet he found his purple kyber crystal on many years back. The planet was largely unexplored and had a harsh environment. Windu landed the shuttle in a flat area, and all 3 of them exited the shuttle. A somewhat of a path was visible as they decided to follow it. They were walking through various rock formations and could see some ominous-looking trees all around them. After a long time of walking through the difficult terrain of the planet, Anakin spotted a cave in the distance. As he got closer to the cave, Windu recalled that he found his purple kyber crystal in a similar-looking cave. Obi-Wan and Anakin entered the cave side by side. They made their way through the various tunnels and entrances. They felt the force around them. This cave was very strongly attuned to it. After a long while, they noticed a purple glow at the end of the hallway. As Anakin entered first, he could see that there were 2 purple kyber crystals ahead. Obi-Wan stepped forward, as the right kyber crystal started shining stronger. When Anakin stepped closer, the left crystal started shining stronger. They understood which one was for who, as it carefully removed the crystals from the wall. It was something they had never seen before. The crystals were right next to each other. They were almost connected. Obi-Wan and Anakin then made their way out of the cave. They met back up with Windu and showed him the crystals. Windu smiled and said, "I'm proud of you two. This is deserved." The three of them then made their way back to the ship. Back on Coruscant, Sidious was in his lair in the industrial sector. While the three Jedi had made their way to Hurricane, Sidious had been performing self-alchemy. He felt a disturbance in the Force and sought the dark side for help. He then got a vision of Obi-Wan and Anakin wielding purple lightsabers, a Jedi shuttle landing on a planet and a cave with a purple glow. As Sidious snapped out of the vision, he realized how far he would have to reach to get Anakin on his side. He wasn't aware if Anakin and Obi-Wan learned the pod. As he was connecting the dots, a wave of realization swept over him. He whispered out the word Windu with great anger. He hated that Jedi scum. Windu had taken the Sith form of Juyo and tried to make it a Jedi form, and now he was trying to steal Skywalker from him. Sidious, through his vast sources, knew where Windu had gotten his purple kyber crystal. He didn't know how much Anakin knew of Vaapad by this point, as if Anakin were to master Vaapad, he would surely not join Sidious. However, Vaapad could also make things easier for Sidious, but he wasn't taking any chances. Sidious quickly entered his ship and set a course for Hurricane. He would deal with these Vaapad-wielding Jedi. Back on Hurricane, as Windu was about to take off, Obi-Wan had spotted a ship landing in the distance. The Council was aware of them being here, but why would they come? Windu, Obi-Wan, and Anakin exited the ship, hands on their lightsabers as they could feel the Force shifting around them. Sidious exited the ship with a smirk on his face. He could sense the three Jedi, and he would deal with them. Anakin was now a liability for him. As Sidious made it closer to the Jedi, the Force and weather around them was rapidly shifting. Anakin said, "I have a bad feeling about this," as Obi-Wan agreed with him. The three of them stayed close together, watching their surroundings. Suddenly, they heard a creepy laugh as Sidious moved at them like a blur. Two crimson blades ignited. The Jedi were somewhat caught off guard by this, as the Sith moved quicker than anything they had ever seen. The crimson glow of Darth Sidious's twin lightsabers bathed the Jedi in an eerie light. As he lunged forward, a whirlwind of speed and precision. His attacks were relentless, striking with such fury that Anakin, Obi-Wan, and Mace Windu were immediately forced onto the defensive. Sidious's first move was to separate them. He struck low at Anakin while unleashing a violent force push, sending Obi-Wan hurtling into a rock. The impact knocked the wind out of him, leaving him momentarily dazed. Mace Windu, the only one standing his ground, intercepted Sidious's vicious strikes, his purple blade clashing against the Sith's blood-red sabers. The Sith Lord moved like a phantom, his attacks precise and unpredictable. But Windu was no ordinary Jedi, as the Sith's darkness flowed through him, turning it back against him. Anakin, still a young Padawan of only 13, tightened his grip of his blue saber and charged forward. But Sidious had been waiting for this moment. With a wicked snarl, he twisted his wrist and brought his saber down, slicing through Anakin's right arm in one swift, merciless strike. The boy screamed, collapsing onto the cold, rocky ground as a severed limb hit the ground beside him. Pain seared through his body like fire. Such weakness. Sidious hissed, his yellow eyes gleaming with sadistic pleasure. He raised his hand, and without hesitation, he unleashed a storm of Sith lightning, striking both Obi-Wan and Anakin. Obi-Wan gritted his teeth, forcing himself up despite the agony, surging through him. His vision blurred, but he could see Anakin writhing in pain beside him. With the last of his strength, he reached out, grabbed Anakin, and dragged him toward their ship's boarding ramp. Meanwhile, Mace Windu was alone against the Sith Lord. He fought with calculated precision, his blade dancing between defense and counterattack. But Sidious was fast, forcing Windu to steadily retreat toward the ship, step by step. Then, Windu saw his opening. Sidious lunged forward with both sabers aiming to overwhelm him. But Windu suddenly deactivated his blade, causing Sidious to overextend. In that instant, Windu used the Force to send himself hurtling backward, flipping through the air onto the ship's ramp, just as its engines roared to life. He then unleashed a powerful Force push, sending Sidious flying back. Obi-Wan, gasping for breath, slammed the controls, sealing the hatch of the ship. The ship lifted off, leaving the Sith Lord behind. Sidious got back up as he saw the ship fly away in the distance, as his furious howl could be heard across the galaxy. Hello there, and welcome to What If Obi-Wan Learned Vaapad After Qui-Gon's Death, Part 2 of 2. Location, Coruscant, Jedi Temple. Time, 26 BBY. The bustling sounds of the Jedi T6 shuttle's engines could be heard throughout one of the hangars in the Jedi Temple as it was landing. The Council Masters were awaiting its arrival with excitement as they were interested in whether Obi-Wan and Anakin had successfully found the purple kyber crystals they had visions of. As the shuttle's ramp opened and hard steps could be heard, the Council, along with other Jedi, were even more excited. But the sight they would see was not anything they would have anticipated. They saw Obi-Wan exit the ship first, but he did not look the same as when he left. His Jedi robes were burned, and he had bruises all over, and the left side of his face looked like it had been burned with heavy scars on it. What came after Kenobi was even more surprising. Right behind him, a still tired Mace Windu was walking out of the ship, helping Anakin walk. Anakin also had bruises all over, and adding to it all, he was missing his right arm. Obi-Wan and Anakin were quickly rushed to the medical bay, as the onwatching Jedi were horrified at what they saw. The Jedi Council immediately called for a meeting. Windu first presented the two purple kyber crystals Obi-Wan and Anakin had successfully retrieved. The Council were happy to see that they had succeeded with their initial quest, but now they wanted to know what happened. Windu looked around the chambers, slowly making eye contact with every Council Master. He then spoke with a cold tone. Another Sith Lord. These words brought shivers down the Council Master's spines. And this time, there were no doubts in their minds. 5 years ago, a Sith Lord had emerged from the shadows after a millennia. They initially had doubts that they were strengthened by the fact that they had learned this from Qui-Gon Jinn. Of course, eventually, they faced the fact that the Sith are back, but not much could be done. Now that Mace Windu himself was saying this, and looking at Anakin and Obi-Wan, there was more than enough proof. The Council fully believed in Windu's words. After Windu had described the encounter with the Sith Lord in detail, the Council had heard enough. They acted immediately, starting an investigation into this matter, sending out Jedi in large groups all over the galaxy to search for any clues, and even wanting to address this to the Senate. Anakin and Obi-Wan would be treated of their wounds, with Anakin receiving a cybernetic arm as replacement for his missing one. Obi-Wan, however, had some scars that were permanent. His left hand had some small scars on it, but his face is what really drew attention. The left side of his face had a big scar going from his forehead all the way down to his neck, with a few smaller marks along the side of the big one. Obi-Wan would come to embrace this look further, solidifying him being called the two-sided Jedi, his right side being calm and collected, ready to defend with no scars, his left side furious with determination, ready to strike at anything with many scars. Both Anakin and Obi-Wan would also start using their new purple lightsabers, becoming even more popular among the Order, being the only current Jedi to be using purple lightsabers other than Mace Windu. Going over to the Senate building, Palpatine was sitting in his office with anger radiating off him. He was furious. He had every intention of killing those 3 Jedi and failed. He didn't even manage to kill the 13-year-old Anakin. Not only had he revealed himself to the Jedi, but he had failed to even kill one of them. This would be a big problem. Before Palpatine could continue to think to himself, he quickly had to change back to his Chancellor persona as Master Yoda. Windu, the official, stepped into his office. Palpatine had to suppress his anger after seeing Windu, the Jedi he had just faced hours ago. The Jedi were here to request a Senate session as they had some important news. Palpatine was adamant at knowing this news, so he kept asking the Jedi what it was they had to tell the Senate. The Jedi explained that the Sith threat has now become so great that they feel they must address it to the Senate. Palpatine was surprised after hearing this, but he let the Jedi do it as he didn't even think the Senate would care much. so he might as well just let the Jedi waste their time. The next day, a Senate session was called, as Master Windu and Master Yoda stood together in a Senate pod. Windu started speaking to the whole Senate. Yesterday a new threat emerged, or rather, a threat has returned. This threat is a great one to the Republic. This threat is the Sith. For millennia we thought that the Sith had gone extinct, but we were wrong. 5 years ago, a Jedi Master was killed by a Sith Lord on Naboo, but was killed himself. After this took place, we had no further leads, but yesterday a new Sith Lord emerged. I myself fought him alongside two Jedi that were almost killed, and we had to run for our lives. The Senate listened intently as Windu continued speaking. This Sith Lord is more powerful than anything I've ever seen. And before any of you think that this doesn't pose any threat to you or the Republic and is a Jedi concern, you should listen to what I have to say. Yes, the Sith are the ancient enemy of the Jedi, but they have also always been enemies of the Republic. But many centuries ago, they saw strength in numbers, fighting against the Republic and Jedi with armies. Now it seems that their ways have changed. The Sith now sit in the shadows, planning who knows what. And for all we know, a Sith Lord could be among us right in this very building. We don't know what the Sith are planning, whether they still see strength in numbers and are building up an army, or if their ways have truly changed. But the Jedi have launched an investigation into this matter, and Jedi all around are working on finding new information about the Sith's whereabouts. So I ask you all, I ask the Senate for support of any kind, as the galaxy and the Republic are in danger. The whole Senate was quiet after Windu stopped speaking. Windu turned to Yoda as Yoda nodded at him. Every single senator was in awe at Windu's speech. After another moment of the Senate being quiet, a clap could be heard. Then another, and another. In seconds, the whole Senate building erupted in applause. Masamida had to quiet down the Senate as a vote was quickly put in place. The vote quickly concluded in an 81% favor of diverting funds to the Jedi investigation. Palpatine just sat there in his pod, having to pretend like he's on board with this, but he was fuming on the inside. Yoda and Windu returned to the temple and informed the council of this new revelation. All of them were extremely surprised at the fact that the Senate so easily agreed with Windu, and the fact that the vote was so overwhelmingly in favor for supporting the Jedi was very surprising. Plo Koon then mentioned that this doesn't necessarily make the Senate good, but Windu's speech really got through to them. It made them afraid of losing their powers as senators. Master Yoda nods as he speaks. Right you are, Master Plo. But use this to our advantage we should. For now at least, on our side the Senate is. While this was happening, Palpatine had gone to his secret lair in the industrial sector. He was at the brink of exploding with anger. He thought that the Senate wouldn't care, and that they would simply brush off what the Jedi had to say. He had to contact Dooku about this immediately. When Dooku answered his master's call, he would sense his anger. Palpatine spoke slowly to Dooku, surprising him. After Palpatine explained the situation and asked what they should do about this, Palpatine simply answered, "Some plans need to be changed," as he let out a chilling laugh. Location: Coruscant, Senate Building. Year: 22 BBY. The Coruscant sun cast long shadows across the Senate landing platform as a Nubian starship descended. Senators Bail Organa and Mon Mothma stood waiting as Padme Amidala stepped off the ramp. Then, a sudden explosion erupted. The shockwave sent them sprawling, metal debris flying through the air. Padme hit the ground hard but was alive. Mon Mothma, shaken, pulled her to her feet. Bail groaned in pain, blood staining his tunic from shrapnel wounds. Smoke and alarms filled the air. The tremor from the explosion made the Chancellor's office shake. Masters Yoda, Mace Windu, Obi-Wan Kenobi, Ki-Adi-Mundi, and Plo Koon turned sharply toward the window, their eyes looking onto the rising smoke. Without hesitation, they rushed out of the room, making their way toward the blast site. As they descended the Senate steps, Obi-Wan's sharp eyes caught movement. 3 figures darting across the rooftops. "There!" he shouted. He and Mace Windu immediately chased. Obi-Wan and Windu leaped into speeders, weaving through traffic, pushing their engines to their limits as they pursued the assassins. The figures moved with precision, vaulting over gaps and using grappling hooks to propel themselves between buildings. "They're trained," Windu said, his voice tense. Obi-Wan accelerated, leaping from his speeder mid-air, landing hard on the rooftop, rolling to absorb the impact. The assassins split up. Windu pursued two, while Obi-Wan focused on one. He reached out with a force, yanking the assassin backward. The figure tumbled, hitting the ground hard. The assassin thrashed violently, reaching for something in their mouth. "No you don't," Obi-Wan lunged, but it was too late. They bit down, and a violent electric surge convulsed their body within seconds. They were dead. Obi-Wan clenched his fists. Whoever sent them made sure they wouldn't talk. Back at the Senate building, Windu returned minutes later. The other two assassins had escaped. He frowned, looking at the lifeless body before them. "This was no ordinary attack," he said. "The Sith," Yarimundi said grimly. "If they're involved," Plo Koon added, "then they stand with the Separatists." Or, Windu's expression darkened, "they're manipulating both sides." Yoda closed his eyes. "4 years we have searched, yet nothing we have found. Always hidden, the Sith remain." "If they can orchestrate a war without revealing themselves," Obi-Wan said, shaking his head, "then they are more dangerous than we feared." Behind them, Palpatine's lips curled into a subtle grin. "Then the Republic must be more vigilant than ever," he said smoothly. Elsewhere on Coruscant, the remaining two assassins moved through the underworld shadows, activating a secure holo-transmission. Count Dooku's image appeared before them. "The ship was destroyed," one assassin reported, "but the senators likely survived." Dooku's expression turned cold. "Then you must finish the job. If Amidala lives, you die." In the wake of the attack, the Jedi Council swiftly assigned protectors to surviving senators. Masters Shaak Ti and Luminara Unduli were placed under the direct protection of Bail Organa and Mon Mothma. However, due to the severity of the threats against Padme Amidala, Obi-Wan Kenobi and Anakin Skywalker were personally tasked with ensuring her safety. As they relocated Padme to a secure residence, Anakin found himself drawn to her once again. However, this time, he was more composed, more disciplined. His training under Vaapad had helped him manage his emotions, honing his focus rather than letting his feelings control him. Padme, still wary, sensed the change in him. He was still bold, still passionate, but his presence felt more stable, more in control. While ensuring Padme's safety, Obi-Wan was also tasked with tracking down the remaining two assassins. The Council authorized him to use all available resources, including the Coruscant Guard and Republic intelligence. However, the Jedi Master knew this was a race against time. Despite the Jedi's precautions, the two surviving assassins struck again. Late at night, a small probe droid slipped through the security net, releasing a swarm of poisonous centipede-like creatures into Padme's quarters. However, this time, Anakin and Obi-Wan were already on edge. Anakin, sensing something through the Force, ignited his lightsaber and sliced the creatures apart instantly. At the same time, Obi-Wan spotted the droid retreating. Without hesitation, he leaped out of the window, grabbing hold of it as it soared into the Coruscant skyline. Anakin quickly grabbed the speeder and took off after Obi-Wan. The pursuit led them through the chaotic skylines of Coruscant. This time, however, the assassins had no intention of being captured. As the Jedi closed in, the two assassins tried to separate, but Anakin used his increased mastery of Vaapad to push himself beyond his limits, accelerating his speeder with precise control. He cut off one of them using his lightsaber to sever their escape route. Meanwhile, Obi-Wan leaped off the droid, flipping onto a nearby balcony where the second assassin had taken position. With speed and precision, he disarmed them, pinning them to the ground. Both assassins, now in Jedi custody, exchanged panicked glances. Then, before Obi-Wan or Anakin could interrogate them, a sniper shot rang out. A single blaster bolt from a distant rooftop silenced both assassins instantly. Obi-Wan's eyes darted toward the direction of the shot, just in time to see a Mandalorian-like figure taking off in the air. Anakin leaped onto his speeder, attempting to follow, but the figure's jetpack was too fast. He vanished into the depths of Coruscant's underworld before they could close the distance. Obi-Wan reported the incident to the Jedi Council. With both assassins dead, the only remaining lead was the bounty hunter. Following up on the toxic dart used in the assassination, Obi-Wan's investigation eventually led him to Kamino. Meanwhile, Anakin continued to experience disturbing visions of his mother's suffering. This time, however, he trusted Master Windu enough to confide in him. Windu, after careful deliberation, granted Anakin permission to go to Tatooine. Anakin and Padme traveled through the desert world, where he reunited with his mother just in time. Instead of being too late, he managed to free her from the Tusken Raiders before she died. This changed everything. Anakin didn't succumb to his rage, didn't slaughter the village. Instead, he led her to safety, ensuring she received a medical attention. For the first time, he felt a different kind of peace. While Anakin was on Tatooine, Obi-Wan discovered the clone army on Kamino, just as he had in the original timeline. But his investigation led him to Geonosis, where he tracked down Jango Fett to Count Dooku's hidden base. Upon attempting to send a warning to the Jedi, Obi-Wan was captured. However, this time, Anakin sensed something was wrong. Anakin decided to report this to the Jedi Council, instead of recklessly rushing to Geonosis. Anakin contacted Master Windu directly. Obi-Wan's in trouble, Anakin reported. He's on Geonosis. If I leave now, I might be able to delay whatever they're planning, or at least bargain for his life. Windu nodded. You will not face this alone, Anakin. I will bring reinforcements. Go, but be cautious. Help is on its way. Much like in the original timeline, Obi-Wan, Anakin, and Padme had to fight for their lives on the Geonosian arena. But when things were looking dire, suddenly, out of nowhere, thousands of lightsabers ignited into the arena. Windu was not messing around, as he had managed to mobilize around 2,000 Jedi Masters and Knights, as he knew that the war would start here. The Jedi charged into battle, their lightsabers cutting down the Geonosian forces as they flooded the arena. The sight of so many Jedi igniting their lightsabers at once was a monumentous symbol of hope for the Republic. Meanwhile, the Separatists, realizing their plans were crumbling, scrambled to reassemble their forces. But the Jedi were already too far ahead. Though the Jedi had an advantage in numbers, the Geonosian droids were relentless, pouring into the arena to overwhelm them. The Jedi stood strong, their disciplined coordination and skill allowing them to hold their ground. But just as the battle seemed to shift in favor of the Separatists, the roar of blaster fire filled the air. The clone army had arrived. With the unmistakable sound of the Republic gunships descending from the skies, the clones dropped in waves, filling the arena with blaster fire that pushed back the droids. Their presence was a game changer, the precision and the discipline of the clones providing the much-needed edge. The Jedi fought with renowned vigor as the clones formed up with them, creating a unified force that began to overpower the droids. Despite the overwhelming reinforcements, the battle wasn't over yet. Count Dooku, observing from his advantageous point, saw his plans were faltering. With a smirk, he began to retreat, heading toward an exit in the arena. But as he made his way out, he was confronted by Obi-Wan and Anakin, who had pushed through the chaos of the battlefield. Anakin and Obi-Wan shared a glance, their bond stronger than ever. Together? Obi-Wan asked. Together, Anakin affirmed. The two Jedi immediately pursued Dooku, cutting through the droid forces that tried to stop them. The Separatist leader was fast, but Obi-Wan and Anakin were faster, and they cornered him near the edge of the arena. Dooku drew his lightsaber, ready for the fight. Knowing he would have to face them both, the duel began, and it quickly became clear that Obi-Wan and Anakin were much stronger than Dooku had anticipated. Their training in Vaapad had taken them far. The strength of their bond, combined with their mastery of their respective lightsaber forms, made them a formidable duo. Anakin with relentless aggression, he strikes faster and more precise than ever. Obi-Wan, the calm and calculated fighter, used his mastery of Form 3 to defend and counter Dooku's attacks, anticipating the Sith Lord's every move. Dooku was no slouch, however, and his own skills were formidable. He fought with the precision and agility of a seasoned duelist, but as the fight progressed, he began to struggle. Obi-Wan and Anakin had grown so much in their training and their connection that they flowed seamlessly together, creating an unstoppable offense. Dooku struggled to keep up, knowing that he couldn't afford to be overwhelmed. But just as the tides seemed to turn in favor of the Jedi, Yoda arrived, a small figure cutting through the battlefield as his presence became known to all. The moment Yoda entered the arena, Dooku's eyes narrowed. He knew his time was running out. In a desperate bid to escape, Dooku unleashed all his power, forcing Anakin and Obi-Wan back with a massive surge of the Force. The Jedi were momentarily stunned, but they quickly recovered. Still, Dooku seized the opportunity to flee, using the chaos of the battle to his advantage. He sprinted towards the edge of the arena and activated his personal transport, a sleek and powerful ship that was waiting for him just outside the battlefield. Obi-Wan and Anakin immediately gave chase, leaping into a nearby gunship and following Dooku as he ascended into the air. The gunship tore through the battlefield, dodging blaster fire and debris as they pursued Dooku's ship. Dooku swerved and darted between explosions and the chaos of the ongoing battle, but Obi-Wan and Anakin were relentless. As they neared Dooku's ship, Obi-Wan and Anakin opened fire, their blasters hitting the engines of Dooku's craft. The ship sputtered and began to lose altitude, smoke trailing from the damaged engines. Dooku desperately tried to regain control, but it was too late. His ship spiraled out of control, but with a final desperate effort, he executed a controlled crash landing just outside the battlefield. The Jedi and clones soon arrived at the wreckage, but there was no sign of Dooku. He had managed to escape into the nearby rocky terrain before they would close in on him. His ship had been a decoy, and Dooku was long gone. Anakin and Obi-Wan exchanged a glance, frustration and determination in their eyes. "He escaped again," Anakin muttered. "We'll track him down," Obi-Wan said, his voice steady despite the setback. "The war's far from over. The Clone Wars are in full swing, but they are unfolding much differently than Palpatine had anticipated. With Grievous's death at the hands of Obi-Wan early in the conflict, Palpatine's carefully laid plans are already in disarray. He had expected Grievous to serve as the Republic's greatest adversary for much longer, but instead, the Cyborg General's demise sets the tone for the war to come. The loss stings deeply, and Palpatine's frustration grows with every passing day. This is not how the war was supposed to go. Despite this, Palpatine's manipulations continue to spread. The Separatists, having been convinced to hate the Jedi, remain an ongoing threat. Throughout the war, the Jedi are seen as heroes. When Satine contacts the Jedi about help against the Death Watch, the Jedi act quickly, and the Vaapad trio is sent to Mandalore. They deal with the Death Watch, as Satine and Obi-Wan are reunited. Months into the war, Maul returns with his sights aimed at killing Obi-Wan at all costs. But Obi-Wan, now the master of Vaapad and Sarisu, quickly deals with Maul before he can even recruit his brother Savage Opress. And about 10 months into the war, Ventress is killed by Anakin and his Padawan Ahsoka Tano. Just a year into the war, Palpatine decides to start the Battle of Coruscant, diverting all Separatist forces to the attack. Palpatine was desperate for the Separatists to do better in the war, as he needed the war to go on for longer. The now very well-known Vaapad trio of Obi-Wan, Anakin, and Mace Windu engaged in an epic duel with Dooku aboard the Separatist capital ship. But Dooku gets overwhelmed very quickly by the sheer power of the trio. Obi-Wan strikes the final blow, and Palpatine's last remaining ally in the war is lost. This second blow devastates Palpatine. "I've lost Grievous and Dooku," he mutters to himself, unable to believe that his carefully crafted power structure is collapsing before his eyes. This is it. Everything is falling apart. Blinded by rage and fear of losing control, Palpatine becomes more erratic. The death of Dooku marks a point of no return. In a fit of desperation, he decides to take extreme action. He orders the immediate seizure of the Senate and declares his intention to solidify his power before the Jedi can get in his way. His blind fury drives him to this drastic step a year into the war, far sooner than he had originally planned. His plan now was to take over the Senate, and if the Jedi didn't agree with him, he would declare Order 66 right there and there. The Jedi, fully aware of the threat of Palpatine poses, cannot allow this to happen. Yoda, Mace Windu, Obi-Wan Kenobi, and Anakin Skywalker are dispatched to confront him. They arrive at his office, where they deliver a stern warning. If he continues with his plan, they will arrest him. By this point, Palpatine had also given up on trying to turn Anakin to the dark side, so he would not try to manipulate him here. But Palpatine, in his madness, is beyond reasoning. He declares that he will not be stopped. Windu speaks loudly. "In the name of the Galactic Senate, you are under arrest." Palpatine grins and responds, "I am the Senate," as he pulls his two crimson blades to him. The Jedi immediately ignite their sabers. at the sight of this. Obi-Wan speaks with a surprised voice. "All this time, you were the Sith Lord we faced on Huracan." Palpatine doesn't answer, as he lets out a force scream and spins into battle. An intense and chaotic duel erupts in the heart of the Senate. Palpatine uses every ounce of his dark side power, but it is no match for the united front of the Jedi. The fight culminates in a final decisive moment where Obi-Wan strikes down the Sith Lord. As Palpatine dies, the galaxy finally learns the truth about his Sith identity. His manipulation of the war, the Senate, and the Jedi is laid bare for all to see. With the Sith Lord gone, the Clone Wars come to an end. The Republic is free from the grip of darkness, and the Jedi are hailed as heroes. The Senate, now no longer under the sway of the Sith puppet, begins to rebuild and restore peace. The Jedi Vaapad trio of Mace Windu, Obi-Wan Kenobi, and Anakin Skywalker become the most renowned heroes of the Republic, as they fought decisive battles in the Clone Wars, defeated Sith Lords, and saved the Republic. In the aftermath, Obi-Wan and Satine, no longer burdened by the chaos of war, marry on Mandalore, and Anakin and Padme also now marry. Their love symbolizes hope for the future, a future now free from the tyranny that once threatened to destroy them all. The Jedi, having learned from their past mistakes, rebuild their order, stronger and wiser than ever. The galaxy enters a new era, one of peace, prosperity, and unity, as the Sith are no more, and the Jedi lead the way into a brighter future. And that is it for What If Obi-Wan Learned Vaapad after Qui-Gon's death, all parts. So this was part 1 and 2 in one video. Wow, I mean, these two parts just did so well. I mean, this was my first What If. Part 1 came out like a month ago, and that video has like 920 views, while part 2 has like 730 views. I mean, the amount of likes and subscribers and everything those videos earned is truly awesome. So I want to thank everybody for the support on those videos and for how they did. Yeah, I mean, they did so well. So yeah, this was those two parts in one video. I will be doing something like this with every What If that has multiple parts. You know, some time after they release, all the parts release. But yeah, I hope you guys enjoyed this. If you did enjoy, make sure to subscribe. We're trying to reach 500 subscribers right now. We are really, really close. Like the video if you enjoyed, and turn your notifications on to be notified next time I post a Star Wars What If. I will be posting a Star Wars What If every Sunday and Thursday every single week. So yeah, next What If will be posted on Thursday this upcoming week. That will be What If Yoda Sensed Mace Windu's Death Part 3, and that will be the final part. So yeah, hope you guys enjoyed this video once again. If you guys do want to support the channel and get exclusive perks, consider joining our Patreon. Also, do remember to join our Discord server. The link is in the description. We're trying to expand our community on there. And yeah, once again, I appreciate you guys watching so much. Please do comment down below, though. I appreciate getting comments on these what ifs. You know, any feedback, what you guys liked, what you didn't like, any tips, anything you'd like to see. Also, what if suggestions for any what ifs you'd like to see in the future. I appreciate all the comments. But yeah, and that is it. Thank you very, very much for watching. This is the way, and may the Force be with you. Until then, I will see you next time. Hey, you didn't watch it? Well, check out the video on the left side of the screen, which is specifically recommended for you, or check out the playlist on the right of the screen, which contains similar videos to this one, made by me, of course. Hey, remember, subscribe.